Hello fellow unicorns, welcome to another video, and today we're doing 3 types of manga torso for guys, and it's all thanks to my Manga Crash Course fantasy book, where you can find everything regarding a little bit more of advanced lessons about all of the tips and tricks on advanced drawing of the body, of the face, how to do compositions and colors for your final manga illustrations and generally art, how to do concept art for video games, and a lot of different stuff that might be good for somebody who wants to go a bit more professional in their artwork, or at least wants to try and see how far they can go to see if they can do their artwork in a more professional way. So let's go straight to the lesson. So today I will be showcasing you how to draw 3 different types of male torso. And before I start, just to make a notice of body positivity is important. So there are different people, we're all made in a different way, so never think that only one type of body is the beautiful body. There's so many different shapes and sizes for humans, and they are all beautiful in their own way. So let's start from these initial concepts. You guys will have to draw out these little like balloons on a string, we like to call them. These will be our future heads, and these strings have these little tiny dots on them. This is actually the size of the balloon or the head, just repeated several times. So if you want to know more about this, please check out the link here and find my tutorials on details on drawing human body, like the full human body. There is a tutorial on female body, male body. Also I have tutorials on male faces and female faces, all completely free. I even added lessons on shading and of course drawing different hair types and how to actually draw anime hair on your own without tracing. So make sure to check out those tutorials as well, and let's continue with today's lesson officially. So the first thing we have here is the face shape, which is our balloon on a string. The second size is the same size of the head, just repeated, and the first third of it should be reserved for the length of the character's neck. I usually draw out this V shape to emphasize the jugulars and just to help me create the male neck. The male neck is way thicker than the female neck, and the first third of the second head is a good waypoint to find where the shoulders for your character needs to be. So if you pull a line here, you will be able to find out where the character's shoulders are. So male torso usually has that little like Dorito shape, people like to call it, where the shoulders are much wider than the hips. So you can definitely use the first, second, third and a half length of the head on the string and mark that as the point where your future waist will be for your character. And as you can see, if we take 2 heads, tilt them, the size of the 2 tilted heads are enough to fill out the size for this character's shoulders. I will be showcasing this only once and just transferring it to other male torsos, because this is something I already explained in my video about male body tutorials, so make sure to check it out, it's right here. Anyways, let's continue with the Dorito shape. So Dorito shape is literally this. I usually do this to mark myself, to just remind myself of the general body shape for guys, and there's this tiny waist right here, so you can definitely just use the initial V shape, then add on to the hips. And if you're wondering how wide the hips should be, you can just take one head, maybe a little more, and that's your character's hip size. And as I said, like, normal human bodies are way different than the drawn human bodies. Also make sure to remember that this here part, I usually draw it as a circle, is your character's armpit, And it's very tricky because it almost seems that when the arms start from the body, they're almost like connected to the body. So try practicing and watching a lot of references of real humans to figure out this particular part of the body because it's tricky. In any case, now we have an outline of something that's more of a generic, handsome character body. The second one will definitely be a little bit more skinnier, but for now we're using this to outline our character's general muscular shape. So don't forget to draw out this here. This is the clavicle, I think. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing stuff wrong because English is not my primary language. Then the first rule about drawing breasts, even on men, when you take this size of the head and put it lower, that's where the chest area ends. So this is a good marker to know where the chest area ends. A lot of people can just go and use this square here to mark up the general muscular male chest. As for the nipples, a lot of manga artists do not draw nipples on guys, but I think that's a bit like weird. So I usually, what I say to people is just go to the outer edges of the square you just drew and then just leave a small flat circular shape. Also try to make stuff as symmetrical as you can. I'm currently focusing on explaining stuff, so I'm not doing the most precise job. And of course, I usually tell people you don't draw manga with pencils, but in this case, when you're practicing, when you're having something new to learn, pencils are awesome because then you can erase your mistakes, you can play around, you can test your line thickness and everything else. So the next stop is the belly button. If we have the first head, then the second head to finish off the line for the chest, the third one is the belly button. So it's really nicely marked here. And I know a lot of people constantly obsess about the six-pack on human, well, on the male torso. This six-pack is actually this entire area here until the third and a half head, because this is where the crotch is being constructed. And what people usually make a mistake about, they make the six-pack go above the belly button, which is a big mistake because that's not how actual human body works. Real humans that do have a six-pack, they usually have a four-pack above the belly button, and then the other part is under the belly button. When you do this as a general marking, you can then shape the edges here into something more soft and then erase the excess lines, because if you're having all of these lines here, it doesn't really look that natural. So make sure to keep the shapes and the lines that you prefer and just leave the ones that actually tell the story of the shape of the six-pack. Sometimes we will see that in the skinnier torso. Skinnier torsos do not usually have six-packs, but they do have these three lines, just as lines, to emphasize the smooth toned body of a skinnier torso. In any case, biceps, triceps, the thickness of the neck and the thickness of the arms is something that can be changed depending on the musculature of your character. So it's all literally dependent on your own personal aesthetics and on your own personal view of what's beautiful. I usually love to draw this little shaded area right under the character's chin, just like in anime. And I prefer thicker necks because that means that the characters are more muscular. But let's try and do a more skinny torso now. So the first thing is we will do exactly the same thing we did here. The first third of the second size of the head is for the veins in the neck, and this time we will plan that our neck is way thinner than the first one. So we have a thin pencil neck, as they like to call it. Then we have this line for the shoulders. The shoulders are the same size, so we will base everything on the same. So we have two lengths of the head, first tilt, then second, and this will be the same size torso as the last. So we have 1 head, 2 head, 3 head and a half. This will be the area where we will put our hips, and then we'll do the Dorito. But this time, this character will be way skinnier. It will have way less muscle mass, way less lines that show and emphasize that this character is more muscular. Actually, the thinner neck is already doing half of the work. Then we will draw the clavicle. Again, I'm sorry if I'm misusing these terms. I only know medicine stuff from like medicine TV soap operas or something. In any case, I usually call this a seagull or a spread M. It looks like a letter M. In any case, so we have this V shape. We will follow it, and then we will do the little waist here and the teeny tiny narrow hips for the guys. And of course we can extend to make the crotch area. In any case, this already seems a lot different than the first one. We will also be adding some thinner arms, and the rule is the same. The first head and the second head, this is where the chest area ends. You can plan out the squares for the male chest area. You can even add little nipples if you want to, but all of this, like all of these lines emphasizing and showing the muscles, will be reduced to like maybe one line here, one line in the middle, the belly button at the third height of the head, and maybe these two lines just to like emphasize. Everything else should be well, more or less erased. All of these helper lines are there to just help us put stuff in the right place, but not to be seen anymore after we're like done setting everything up. So this is basically it. We can reduce these lines as well. And that's the skinnier version of the male torso. As you can see, it's still well toned. It's still something we can see on a shonen or a manga character that's like maybe bishi character, more lean, more toned, but still not really muscular. And then we have number 3, which is more of a curvy one. And here we will use the same exact skeleton. So head number 1, head number 2, number 3, number 4, and we have here we will probably just use the same skeleton. So we will have the first third of the second head is where the neck is ending. Then we have 2 tilted heads. And here we will actually have a very thick but very short neck, because a lot of the chubbier characters have really tall lines for shoulders. And the main misconception about the male body is that this type of body is just fat, which is a complete myth. Actually, this type of body we will draw right now, it belongs to people who are way stronger than people who are like this. And I'll show you even like examples. in any case, so we can start with the same proportions like here. We can do the 2.5 head to form the waist. We can do the Dorito as well, just to have some general guidelines, and then we change everything because usually what happens with the male body, there are types of male bodies that are more curvy because naturally their muscle mass is stored in the belly, so we will add a belly to them. And you will see that a lot of like lumberjacks, and if you go and Google, and I will include the photos right here, if you go and Google the strongest man competition where people are literally hauling entire airplanes by hand, you will see that their bodies look more like this than like this, because their whole muscle mass is concentrated in the belly area. So this is why these characters are more stocky. They have wider rib cages, they have bellies, and they have stronger, wider, bigger chest area. So this is more of a natural looking male muscular torso. The muscular torsos that I drew for the second example can be something that's more of an athlete in certain sports. There are different types of bodies for different types of sports. But if we're talking about pure strength, this is something you will see that actually represents a human torso. In any case, see how a big difference is in these three, but they are all based on the same construction. You just have to know which types of sports and which types of activities are shaping the body in different ways, and that's how you can make your fantasy characters look a certain way. So if you want to draw somebody like a character that's an archer or runs really fast or is like a rogue or something like that, then I kind of advise you to create them to be like this, of this musculature. If you have somebody who's more like swordsman or something like that, that's also agile but also uses their strength, then this is the character shape for you. But if you're doing a character that can lift entire mountains, that can like literally wrestle with bears and stuff like that, then you should definitely go and design them to look like this, because every type of body is beautiful in their own way, and they do have their own way of shaping your character and making your character look more believable. Thank you guys so much for watching, and see you guys next time. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you would like to learn how to draw manga, please check out my book Manga Crash Course, available in 4 different languages, as well as my latest book Manga Crash Course Fantasy.